this is Jason, and I'm from Lahaina Music, and we're going to start going through a video series that accompanies this book here, Jason's Ukulele Book. If you'd like to pick it up, you can get it on our website. The book covers a bunch of different material. It's about 108 pages long, and it's not like filled up with cartoons and a bunch of blank space. There's a lot of information in here, and we're going to try to accompany it with some videos. So we're going to start at the very beginning because there's no way you can get away from basics. Basics are important, and we're going to talk about different ukulele sizes and how to hold the ukulele in this video, and then in subsequent videos we'll start covering other topics. For starters, if you get the right size ukulele, it's easier to play. It doesn't mean you can't play different sizes of ukuleles. I can play any size ukulele I want. Here's an example. This one's a little soprano ukulele. It's a pineapple shape, this one, but it's the same size as a soprano, just that a soprano would be a little hourglass shape. Am I going to have fun with this ukulele? Yeah, I will, but it's a little harder to play because it's small. It's unstable. I feel a little bit like a girl on a tricycle. But if you hand one to me at a party, I'm going to have a ridiculous amount of fun playing it, but it wouldn't be my choice if I'm going to a gig, and it wouldn't be my choice if I'm going to be teaching somebody who is about the same height I am. I'm just under 6 feet tall. If somebody was 5 foot tall, maybe, that would be about a perfect size ukulele for them. What if somebody's in between size, medium-sized ukulele? I might recommend a concert-sized ukulele. That'd be like this guy here. Here's a concert-sized ukulele. I love this ukulele. This was one of my dad's ukuleles. Fantastic uke. It's not ideally sized for me, though. It's maybe somebody who was 5'3" to 5'6" or something in there. A medium-sized person. This might be ideally sized for them. I can play this. I can have a lot of fun on this, but it's going to be easier for me if I have something a little bit larger, and I'll show you why. It has to do with how you hold the ukulele. So let me grab a tenor. Here's a tenor. Now this is all of a sudden it becomes really, really stable. So the way to hold the ukulele, and it does make a big, big difference. If you get the back part of the ukulele here up against your upper arm, like where your bicep is, fold your arm right over the top, grab it where the neck joins the body, cinch it in against your chest like it's a football that you're not trying to pop the football, but you don't want to fumble either. So hold it against your body like this, and when you strum, you have lots of stability. Notice how I'm strumming it up where the neck joins the body. There's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is I'll get better tone here. If I play it back here, it'll sound very tinny by comparison. I don't want a tinny sounding ukulele. This is a very nice uke, and anything you do that makes this sound not good is definitely not an ideal technique. If I strum it up here, I'll get sort of a blended tone. Over here, I'll get a little more warmth. For strumming, that's a huge advantage. So most of my strumming I'm going to do between maybe here and here. Now, there is one size larger ukulele. We should touch on that just briefly. It's called a baritone. Baritone ukuleles are tuned a little differently. And I have one right here. They sound a lot different too because they're tuned like a guitar. And on this one, this is probably going right off the screen. It's a much bigger instrument, so I'll try to kind of maneuver it so you can see it. This is tuned like a guitar, so I can have a lot of fun on a baritone too. But if you're playing with a bunch of ukulele players and you don't really know your chords yet, and suddenly you're on a baritone, you're not going to blend in very well because all your chord shapes will be different. That'll be a little trickier. Kind of look at it as like it's a different kind of instrument. So anyway, for me, I'm on a tenor size. You could play whatever size ukulele you have, but if you're starting from scratch, kind of like you could ride any size bicycle that you want, but if you're starting from scratch, you should probably start with something that fits you ideally. So get something that you can hold comfortably and keep it stable. Let's talk about some mistakes people make in holding ukuleles that are disadvantageous mistakes. One would be, as soon as I pull my arm back this way and I create, like I'm going to play over the sound hole, as soon as I make that the emphasis, and I create space back here, that creates instability. So now the uke's going to wobble. We call this guitaritis, stage 1 guitaritis. Stage 2 guitaritis is where it wobbles down to here. Stage 3 guitaritis, I'm going to stand up to demonstrate, is where it wobbles all the way down to here. Now at this point, I've got a bunch of problems. I don't know if it'll even show up on camera. But for one thing, the uke doesn't sound very good anymore because I'm playing it way back here. I'm trying to support the uke on my wrist where the edge of the uke is. This is not comfortable at all. It's going to lead to bad strumming technique, bad playing technique. Here my thumb's way out in front of the uke. This is definitely not what we want. My fingers are flattened. I can't get on my fingertips really from this position. Stage 4 guitaritis, the ultimate final stage, is where the uke is completely off the screen and we play this. So that's stage 4 guitaritis, and we want to avoid that. We're playing ukulele, so if you just get the uke up a little bit higher, it makes a world of difference. It makes it much, much easier to play. And you can play it sitting down, you can play it standing up, you don't need to modify your technique. Now if you want to get a strap and put it on a uke, you can do that. But we recommend getting a strap so that the uke's still in a good playing position. The more farther down here the uke goes, you get what we call, again, guitaritis. Now there are some very good ukulele players who play like that, and that's fine. Part of it's showmanship, which goes along with guitaritis. But really, if you want to play well, and you want to play well quickly, you're going to need to have a stable instrument, and so that's far, far easier if you just hold it like this. Okay, some more specifics about how to hold the ukulele. On this side, think of a vertical karate chop shape with a straight wrist. So you don't want your wrist going backwards like that, but straight wrist, like perfectly straight. Put the uke right on top of this spot right here, like right where your finger joins the palm. You don't want the uke to rest out here, you don't want the uke in your thumb pit, but right in the middle, right about there. Put that part of your hand, slide it all the way out the neck to where that curvature is. We're going to call that, think of it as the chin, like sliding out the neck and bumping into the chin. So we've got the uke in playing position out here. Then what are we going to do with our thumb? Most people think your thumb goes here, but there are a bunch of advantages if you can get your thumb behind the neck. I'm going to pivot the uke so you can see it. Behind the neck, behind the 2nd fret. Now as I pivot the uke back up, you can't really see my thumb, and that's ideal. You want your thumb behind the neck, and that'll give you a straight wrist and good support for what you're doing on the ukulele. And the more your thumb's behind the neck, the more effectively longer your fingers are. So if I put my thumb over the top of the neck like this, which a lot of people do, this is a problem because if I pivot around here, you'll kind of see what happens. My wrist is backwards. Whenever you're moving your fingers like this and your wrist is backwards like that, that can give you something called carpal tunnel syndrome, which is definitely not something that you want. So balance the uke here, thumb stays behind the neck, and there's about 31 different chords we could play from this position, and we've got a very, very stable ukulele. It's going to make it so much easier for you to play. Now let's talk a little bit more detail about the strum. Of course, there's about 15 different ways to strum a ukulele, probably more than that. We're going to recommend what we think is the best way to strum an ukulele in terms of what will sound the best. That's what we're trying to do after all, is sound good, right? So it turns out if you use multiple fingernails and you brush the fingernails over the strings, lightly, smoothly, gently, that's what's going to get you the best tone on a ukulele. This is a similar technique to what you would see in flamenco guitar. It's a family of strumming which we could call rasgueado. It's kind of fun to say, roll the R, rasgueado. But it's what gets you the best tone on a ukulele, really on any nylon string instrument, because classical guitar works the same way. Can you play an ukulele differently? Of course you can, but it won't sound as good. So we might as well teach you what sounds good. This is a good way, as we say, to make a $100 ukulele sound like a $300 ukulele. Learn to strum it like this. A little bit of wrist rotation. So it starts off like you're about ready to go hitchhiking. Not that you should ever go hitchhiking because it's not safe. But then you imagine you're hitchhiking in the rain, so your hand's wet. So before you get in the car, you got to flick the water off your hands. Like that. So if you learn to do that, you'll make a $100 uke sound like a $300 uke. You'll make a $300 uke sound like a $600 uke. Whatever uke you have, it's going to sound better when you play it like that. Can you make a $300 uke sound like a $100 uke? Sure, if you wanted to. Strum it with one finger. So it's not evil. It's just that your tone drops way, way off. It's a big difference. It's about $200 a difference. So that's a big win, right? Just learning how to strum like this right off the bat. Plus, it makes it way easier to learn more advanced strums, which we'll cover in subsequent lessons. So just learning this is huge. What are some really, really disadvantageous ways? I want to say wrong, but wrong is such a confrontational word, and confrontation and ukulele don't normally go together. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to do the opposite of what I just described. So let's say you bunch up your whole hand like it's a giant rock, and you don't rotate your wrist, and you don't move your fingers. Everything's very tense and tight. And then you swing from your elbow, grit your teeth like an angry kindergartner. That is how to frighten away all the fish, frighten away all the birds, frighten away anybody with whom you may have had a romantic interest. They're just not interested anymore because you frightened them off. So you don't want to do that with a ukulele. You want to create a warm, welcoming tone, not a frightening, aggressive, confrontational tone. So why don't we play with a pick? Could we play with a pick? Sure, if we wanted to. I'll demonstrate that quickly. Here's a guitar pick. So if I play with a pick, what's going to happen is I'll get a much more aggressive tone. That sounds a lot like the angry kindergartner strum we did. That's not what we want. Now, can I play it gently with a pick? Yes. But it turns out that's very difficult to do, and most people don't. So as soon as you pick up a pick, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot. There are a lot of people that play ukulele that way, but they would all sound better if they learned this other technique. So that's why I'm recommending this other technique to you. So if you learn this right off the bat, every single strum of every single song is going to sound better, and that's a big win, right? Okay, so there's our down strum. Just a simple down strum. We've got a stable ukulele, thumb behind the neck, karate chop shape underneath the neck. This is all the stuff, if you've made it this far in this video, this is the stuff that other people are not teaching and other people are not learning. So they start off like with a bad habit that makes it really hard to get better. Like imagine if I was trying to teach you how to play ukulele like this. Could you do it? Yeah, maybe. Would it be harder? Yeah, way harder. So if you just learn this stuff in the beginning, it makes it so much easier. Tens of thousands of students say, oh my God, Jason, it became so much easier so fast. So hopefully you've made it this far, and looking forward to the next video. Aloha.